It isn't just that Don Lemon is repeating that lie. It's that the lie has been discredited by his own colleagues on CNN. Here is Jake Tapper.
Let's play some of the sound of President Trump back in 2017, saying he had said today that he answered the question perfectly. Let's take a listen.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as neo-Nazis. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Now, elsewhere in those remarks, the president did condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So he's not saying that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people, but he is saying people protesting alongside those neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people.
Now, that's Jake Tapper, and he said this months ago. Once again, here is what the man said.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Michael Smerconish is a weekend host on CNN, regular appearance on CNN programs. Here is what Michael Smerconish said about the assertion that Donald Trump was referring to white nationalists and neo-Nazis.
Within the last 10 days, I know that I made reference to those words from the president.
Meaning I made the mistake.
I had a phone caller who called and said, that is not what the president said.
Had a phone caller who said, that's not what he said. So then I went back and I looked at the film and I found out.
Now, having invested the time to go back and zapruder the tape, I think the caller's right, and I think you're right.
So you have two hosts on CNN, two of whom have said Donald Trump was not referring to white nationalists and neo-Nazis, and you have Don Lemon, arguably one of their most important anchors, still saying it. Now, speaking of CNN, listen to this I just now heard.
And Florida is the latest Republican-led state to address a problem that just does not exist, passing new restrictions on voting despite the fact that there was no widespread voter fraud in the 2020 election.
Okay. To pass a law for a problem that doesn't exist. Explain this to me. Yesterday I told you that New York and the Georgia laws were almost the same. And one of the reasons is because New York is changing its laws. Now, why would New York change their laws to address a problem that doesn't even exist? A, and B, as I've told you before, she says there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Define widespread. CNN goes ballistic over their poll that finds 76% of Republicans believe there was, quote, widespread voter fraud, close quote. No definition of widespread. And I told you yesterday, 78% of Democrats believe that the Russians changed the outcome of the 2020 section. In other words, they believe widespread voter fraud for 2016, even though Jay Johnson, Obama's Homeland Security Secretary, testified under oath. Yeah, the Russians attempted to interfere. No evidence whatsoever that anything they did succeeded. No evidence whatsoever that the Russians changed the outcome of the election. Yet 78% of Democrats, according to Gallup, believe that. But CNN doesn't seem to call Hillary Clinton and the other people who are pushing this. Donald Trump did not win the election. Donald Trump's election was stolen. Nobody calls Democrats liars.